Hello everyone. Welcome to another session of Common Course A05 Signatures. Today we'll see the last part of Sue Townsend's work of fiction, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3 by 4. Before we begin the chapter as such, or the last part as such, I like to bring one important thing to your notice that usually we find that people tend to confuse with the spelling of diary. The spelling, please note it, is Diary, diary. Some of you might wrongly write it as dairy, that is Dairy. Please note the difference. There's another word, dairy, which refers to milk products, and it's very much evident. The distinction is very much evident in the spelling itself and even in the pronunciation. Dairy, a R sound comes before e, dairy. That's why spelling is Dairy for milk products, whereas diary, which refers to writing, E sound comes before R. So the spelling is Diary. So please note that. So getting on to this chapter, the diary entries as such, you have already seen the first few part of Adrian Mole's very interestingly presented diary. So this is hi from Adrian Mole, and he wants to know whether you all would like to read his diary. Was it a wonderful experience for you? So, would you like to continue reading his diary? Shall we go on to the next entry, which is dated Sunday, March 8th? So, in this part, the Sunday, March 8th part, Adrian narrates his experience and he begins it by talking about an important thing that has happened in his life with regard to his mother. His mother has gone for a workshop, and his father is not very happy about that. What is a workshop that mother has gone for? Assertiveness training. Mother has gone for assertiveness training, and when Adrian asks about it to his father, what assertiveness training is, his father is not doesn't seem to be very happy. His reply that whatever it is, it's bad for me. It reveals or it tells us something about the training. So once mother completes that training, um, she might become more bold, assertive, so that securing rights for her would inevitably mean that he will have to make certain compromises on several things which he is not ready to do. So that is what how the entry for March 8th begins. And then that day they spend time together, father and son. They have food and wine together. They watch a film together. That's how they spend the day. And mother, after returning from the workshop, she makes two bold announcements. One is the worm has turned. So what does she mean by that? She's now aware of her rights. They cannot treat her like a worm anymore. So she divides the housework among the three of them. What does she do? She puts a chart on the wall and she announces, we start tomorrow. Things are going to be different around here. So that's the two announcements that she makes. How does Adrian react to it? He objects. What is his objections? He has a lot of paperwork to do. He has other works. He has to take care of a dog. He has to take care of an old pensioner. But his objections are not heard or not listened to. Why? Because he is not an adult. This entry is quite representative of how an adolescent's life and routine is underestimated by others, especially adults. Adults always feel that their work is important and they're busy, while the teenagers are free most of the time with nothing serious to worry about. But this diary entry, presented from the perspective of an adolescent, makes the readers aware of the fact that even teenagers have a lot of concerns that they consider as important as those of the adults. Thus, this is an eye opener for parents of teenagers. How the writer, being an adult, is still able to think and present situations from the point of view of a teenage boy is noteworthy. Also, the challenge in diary writing. That is another important aspect here. The writer has to address the features of two conflicting genres at the same time. What are those two genres? That are fiction, because Adrian Mole and his diary is imaginary, and non-fiction. But when she writes a piece of non-fiction, she has to present it. I mean, when she writes a piece of fiction, she has to present it as if it is non-fiction because it's a diary entry. Diary entry comes under non-fiction as it pertains to one's real life experiences. That is what you have already seen in the diary of Anne Frank. It is real, but this is not real. This is all the imagination of Sue Townsend, right? Adrian Mole is there in one's imagination. So Sue Townsend as a writer has successfully rendered this challenging job as a writer. So that is what is noteworthy here. So we'll see what assertiveness training means. Training to become bold based on the principle that we all have a right to express our thoughts, feelings, and needs to others as long as we do so in a respectful way. When we don't feel like we can express ourselves openly, we may become depressed, anxious, or angry, and may even suffer from a sense of self worth. Another new word is vintage, which means first rate, which he uses with regard to the wine. Now, one important issue that's raised from this particular entry is what are the Adrian's objections for involving in housework? Why can't he involve in the housework? Because he says he has to do a paper, he has to look after an old age pensioner, he has to look after a dog and schoolwork. Now, next entry is from the very next day, Monday, March 9. If you have noticed, you may find that all the entries in this work is not in the particular, the ones prescribed for you is not continuous. It has been selected. So this particular entry is continuous, March 8th and 9th, for a reason, because it has to be, both these entries have to be placed together and read because it is as if to justify his busy schedule that the very next day, what comes as part of his entry? He details his work one by one, and the readers are all awestruck at the maturity, at his maturity, even though till now he had given a casual picture or casual representation of his character through his entries. And another speciality with this entry is it is on the day of the Commonwealth Day, which falls on the second Monday of March every year. And what is the speciality of this day? It is a day to remind every nation that had been a part of the British Commonwealth or the British Empire that they have a common link. That is, they were once a part of a strong empire, something to memorize in memory of the British rule. Okay, so that is Commonwealth Day. Now, coming to his activities during the day, it's detailed very to the minutest detail. Cleaning, cooking, washing, schoolwork, other responsibilities, preparing a paper, going to school, and upon return also he has to do a lot of work, household chores, including taking care of a dog. And then another thing that he does is he has to give money, menaces money to Barry Kent, who's a gangster. Then he visits an acquaintance called Bert Baxter. And another thing to be noted in this entry, especially, is how he mentions, when he mentions each and everything, he quotes something. To quote him, peeled potatoes, chopped up cabbage, cut finger, rinsed blood of cabbage. So that is to be noted there. Cut finger, which denotes that obviously he is not experienced with all these things. It's new to him, such work. And another thing, when he cuts a finger, he's immediately not washing his finger, but the cabbage. Okay, so all such things are humorously presented by the writer here, which makes it very interesting. But at the same time, we must keep something in mind. That is, when we read this, we must keep in mind that at least some of these might be his exaggerations or deliberate attempt on his part to narrate each and every detail of the day. Why? To establish how hectic or busy his schedule is, in contrast to his mother's opinion. Yesterday's mother, the day before that, his mother was not ready to listen to him, right? So that is why the very next day he wants to show his rebellion. It is again a feature of teenagers, rebellious in nature. Yes. So that day's entry, again, he concludes with a remarkable quote. Please try to by heart it if possible and reproduce these phrases in your answer sheets when you write essays or paragraphs to quote about the style of writing or the humorous elements in this fiction, work of fiction. So, what is it? How does he conclude it? Just my luck to have an assertive mother, right? So how ironically he presents that. He actually means he's unlucky to have such bold mother who makes me do all the household chores. But he presents it in such a way. So all these, this is very, very remarkable about the style of this particular entry. Phrases, yes, that we come across. Menace's money refers to, but the person is a gangster. Okay, he's a gangster, Mr. Bart, and he collects money, threatens people, and collects money from them. Okay, so that is what you mean by menaces money. And he mentions, Adrian mentions that he is involved in domestic science, which refers to the household skills taught in school. Then lounge refers to the sitting area. Some houses have both hall and a lounge. Then saucepan refers to a deep cooking vessel. Then PE kit, P refers to physical education. Clothes holes, where he hangs all the clothes, and that is a high stand to dry clothes. Solicitor refers to the lawyer, which we'll see later on. And first Sunday after Epiphany, again another phrase that we'll see later on, which refers to the Sunday after Christmas, first Sunday after Christmas. Okay, so in this particular entry, he also mentions humorously about how, because of his, not because he doesn't have so much experience with kitchen and things like that, or with household chores, he mixes up all the clothes while washing, white and non-white clothes, and the resulting confusions, and all that is presented humorously. Now, the next entry is that of Wednesday, March 18. This entry is very important because it is here where Sue Townsend brings the problem of certain family problems. Okay, so what is the problem in Adrian's family? His parents are planning for a divorce. So their relationship, already from what we have read from his diary, we've understood that their relationship is not a very happy one. So he calls himself a tug of love child. Okay, so what is this? Earlier also he called himself a latchkey kid. So like latchkey kid mentioned earlier, referring to home alone kids who are left at home under lock when parents go to work. Here what he means by tug of love child is a child who remain neither here nor there when parents fight for their custody in court. But again, we see his innocence, because next, immediately after that, what does he mention? He's not sad at all. He is worried about his looks. Where? When his photo appears in newspaper as a result of his divorce, he'll become famous. That's what he imagines, right? So when his photo appears, he's worried whether his spots, pimples or patches on his face would be clear by that time. So that's again another issue that teenagers face, because it's the age when they start having all these things and they get worried about their looks. So that's again brought out very humorously by the writer here. So, Sue Townsend, again, another important part with regard to this entry is that the writer points out the specific social situation of Britain at that time. That is, where divorce rates were increasing day by day, and people were preferring extramarital or live-in relationships during that time. So that is what is brought out by this particular entry. So, what do we know about the relationship between Mole's parents from this entry? They have a strained or broken relationship. They're always fighting, even for silly matters like who spends more. They're heading for a divorce. They quarrel over the custody of Adrian. They're not even sensitive to his presence or even his feelings. So, basically, they represent the families during that period. Now, the next entry is from Monday, September 14th, which is a full moon day. He talks about his school, the dinner there especially. He's disappointed with the school dinner menu, which consists of hamburger, baked beans, chips, yogurt, or donut. Okay, why is he not disappointed with the school menu? Because he feels that these type of food wouldn't help children of his age to become more healthy, especially to become muscular. So that's again another concern that children of this age have, that is with regard to their body. They become very conscious about their body, right? So that is what is being raised there. And another noteworthy thing with regard to this entry is the casual way in which he speaks of the Iron Lady, the British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. He calls her Mrs. Thatcher. And as he's disappointed with the school menu, what does he say? I'm considering to protest against this. I'll register my protest with Mrs. Thatcher, okay, which is presented very humorously, as if I'm considering, right? That word itself, as if he might be taken seriously, which again shows his feeling of self-importance. That's another thing that teenagers have at this time. They have this feeling to grow up, so that they feel that they are not considered as important by others, which they try to reiterate or force upon others whenever they get a chance. So that is what is evident from this. And also the justification that he gives, that Mrs. Thatcher wants obedient students. Why is she providing such a menu? Because she wants obedient students who are too weak to protest or to raise a voice against her policies. So Sue Townsend also indirectly wants to throw light on the general political atmosphere of Britain at that time, because it promoted Thatcherism, that is, promoted Thatcher's policies during that period. So which is very well presented there. And again, how the boys are concerned about their looks at that age. They want to look stronger and appealing to others. So that is presented very interestingly in that particular entry. So that is why he says considering making protest to Mrs. Thatcher. And then if it is not so, if we have to eat such food, and in fact he begins the entry by saying about how the gravy has phased out. Many things that they were given previously, they've stopped that. So that is very, very sad thing as far as Adrian is concerned. So he feels that if we are going to have this kind of food, then we'll be apathetic. We'll have no enthusiasm and no sense of what is right and wrong. So that is what he is disappointed with this menu. So phased out is another phrase that we have learned, which means gradually stopped. Sinew refers to muscle. Apathetic, showing no interest or enthusiasm. Fiber refers to moral. fiber refers to moral character. Demonstrate means to protest, maybe through march or rally or whatever. That's another term that is brought out here. Now we'll consider the political reason for the adolescents being given unwholesome food at schools. So the menu followed in schools is not an ideal one that assists in building healthy bones and muscles. As a result, children will be less enthusiastic and energetic and cannot think in right terms. Thus, they'll be too weak to protest against political policies. The next entry is from Friday, November 13th. And this is another very interesting entry where we meet his girlfriend. And it's also another important entry wherein the concept of gender inequality is brought about. Even before, when Adrian mentioned about the fight between his parents, we can sense uh, something related to gender inequality there, right? So that is again introduced through the character of his girlfriend, whose name is Pandora. So Adrian assumes an adult tone or disposition. So they talk with each other. And how does he describe the talk? Frank talk. Again, as if, they are very mature enough to take such decisions. So what do they talk about? They talk about their relationship. Okay. And what about their relationship? About marriage. Okay. And how does she react to that proposition? She doesn't want to get married for another 2 years. Imagine they're just 13, 3 by 4 years to be exact, right? But Pandora doesn't wants to get married for another 2 years. Why? Because she wants career. So she's a very serious person. She is very particular about her goals, right? How does Adrian, the lover, react to it? He's naturally devastated. Again, the word choice of word, they naturally, as if it's quite natural, it's not right on her part to react in this way. Yet, yeah, he adds, what does he say? I wouldn't mind her having a little job in a cake shop after wedding. That's how he presents it. So I wouldn't mind her having, as if it is his right, he as after marriage. So that is the gender inequality brought in there. It is his right to protest against her having a job. Okay, so the patriarch in him is revealed through this his shock when Pandora, his girlfriend, mentions about her desire to work, study and work. She wants to go to the university. So women staying at home after marriage is considered natural. They shouldn't go out after marriage. And when he says wouldn't mind, little job, what you can have after all, I can give you permission to have a little job, a small something, just for the name's sake. That's a usual male response to the idea of women taking up job, as if their opinion has to be prioritized before women can do something, or man's permission is required for a woman to work or make choices in her life. So Sue Townsend again remarkably responds to male ego through Pandora's response to this, which is quite remarkable. Her choice of words, in fact. How does she respond to this? She intended to. See, I have decided what I'll do. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm very clear about my goals. She said she intended to go to university. And to add to the insult, she would enter a cake shop only to buy a large crusty. Oh, you offered me that job, right? Yeah, I'll certainly enter a cake shop. But for what? Not for job. I might have some very relevant job there, but I might earn so much that I'll go to a cake shop to buy a cake. So that is her response. Her determination is further presented humorously by this statement about entering a cake shop only to buy one. This not only adds to his insult, but also stresses on the need for women to have self worth. They're usually considered as good only for culinary or cooking related jobs, which fall under so called feminine category. The tendency to blame women for this is also highlighted when he says her words were harsher. So they fight for this with regard to this, and then, as usual, he blames her. Okay, we had a fight, and but let me tell you one thing, readers. Her words were harsher than mine. The next entry is the last entry that we have in the text. That is from Sunday, January 10th, which is earlier we have already seen, first after Epiphany, the first Sunday after Christmas. And again, it's very crisp and short, but quite apt and quite representative of the style of Adrian Moore, style of Sue Townsend, which is revealed through Adrian Moore. Father looks old at 41 compared to President Reagan at 70. Father has no work or worries, yet haggard we already saw, tired. Okay, President Reagan has to carry the world's safety on his shoulders, yet he's always smiling and looking cheerful. It doesn't make sense. So that is how that is the last entry that we have in this chapter. So his comparison between his own father, who appears died at the age of 41, and President Reagan, that is Ronald Reagan, US president at that time when this book was written during 1982. So this chapter thus concludes with an interesting observation on one's approach to life. How life has to be taken lightly despite the numerous challenges and difficulties that life poses before a person. That too, we have to keep in mind that even a teenager, amidst his own concerns and problems in life, can look positively towards life and thereby teaches others that we should try to enjoy and make most of what life offers us. This is what is sensible. So earlier he ends the entry by saying it doesn't make sense why father looks like this. So what makes sense? This. That is, not to look old with worries at a young age, like Adrian's father. So, girls, let's be always smiling and cheerful. Thank you. Thank you very much.